So, yeah, that looks pretty good. Why not? Okay. Okay, you're all set. Like. Okay, I'd like to motion to have the meeting open. Vote. Second is vote, aye. Okay, so, the first thing, I'd like to approve the minutes. Did you guys look over the minutes? Yeah, they look good to me. Everyone thought they were good? Okay, so I motion to approve the board minutes on January 13th. Motion. Second. Vote. Aye, okay. Village board updates, anything, Mike? Nothing tonight. Nothing tonight. Okay, great. Anything on Director of Planning, Zoning, Code Enforcement, nothing?
No, I've got just one item on the next item, the next item on the agenda, so.
Okay, all right, so, so the notice of intent to seek secret or lead agency for the planning board, so the Woodland Ponds project will be
Right, so
under,
the Woodland Pond is a type, they've declared that it will be a type 1 action, which requires a coordinated review of any boards who give a permit. They're here for an area variance for you, for a height variance, so you will be giving a permit. So in order to do the coordinated review, you are, by making a motion, you're accepting that the planning board be lead agency.
okay,
So
motion to make the planning board lead agency? Vote? Okay, good, we're all in.
second,
Second. Yeah. No. You gotta walk. Or get a ride. All right, love you, bye. All right, sorry.
That's in the official record.
I have a, yes. Just told my son to walk home in the snow. He's gonna have a good story to tell his kids. All right, so yeah, so we did the the other thing, okay, so now, now we're gonna talk about 13 Academy Street, okay, so you guys wanna come down here and we'll have a little discussion.
you want to talk about the public hearing, or this is the public hearing for that?
Oh, it is?
Yeah, he sent out that.
Okay, I wanna just talk to them
That's fine.
for a minute,
Whatever,
because
whatever you want to do.
otherwise the public hearing might get weird. Wait, before I do that, is anyone here to speak on 13 Academy Street? No one's here to talk about that. Okay, so it doesn't matter.
We
Okay.
just motion to open it and close it.
Although we,
No, we probably gotta leave
we
it
should
open.
Leave it open, yeah.
So I motion to open up the public hearing for 13 Academy Street.
Motion.
Second vote, aye, okay, so it's now open, no one wants to speak? Sweet, okay, so I just wanna talk to you guys for a couple of minutes. And I've been doing this for 10 years, we've never had one of these before.
Okay.
The main reason is the standard to try to get a variance for this is really hard.
Okay.
Okay, you have to meet all the criteria 100%. The other ones you can not meet and still get approval. Okay, so they're more flexible. These are not flexible at all.
Okay.
You have to show proof. The other problem is the burden of proof is on you. We don't have to prove this. You have to prove it to us.
Right.
So I want to talk to you first before we get involved in everything. So you have sort of a history of this.
Sure.
Are you the architect?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So the first one you have to prove is a lack of reasonable return. So you have to take the cost of the building.
Yep.
You have to tell us how much you paid for the building. You have to have proof of that. So you have to have a check or something like that.
Okay.
I went on Zillow, I saw that.
There's two buildings, so do you
No,
divide between
it's
the
the
two?
property. It's
So it's the total property.
the total property, yes. So you have an investment in that
Yes.
property.
Yeah.
Okay, so that property, I saw on Zillow it was 300,000.
We
Is
paid
that,
300 for it.
okay, it was a straight number. It seemed weird.
It was 300,000.
That's
exactly,
just
yeah.
strange. Okay, so according to my, so according to my back of the envelope kind of investment thing, which I did even, which I now have lost. Okay, So the first thing you have to do is you have to prove for lack of reasonable return. We'll get back to that. So you have to prove that you're losing money and that you're gonna lose the property. And it's not like now, it's like for the last 3 years, we've been bleeding money. We can't make it happen any other way. We paid $300,000 for this property. A normal rate of return is 10%. We're making 0% or -%. And the only way we can do this is that. The second one has to be a unique circumstance. So in other words, your property has to be different than the people who are around you. So if, for example, if someone next to you has a commercial property that's currently making money, you're not unique then. So you have to be different than somebody else by some method. So you'd have to articulate what your unique situation is.
Could be the size.
It could be,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's condition of
Yeah,
building
conditions are-
and the size of it.
And the fact that next door the first building is existing non-conforming and has residential.
And
in
the
it.
building directly up next to us is also a residential building. It's not a
okay,
commercial building.
that you can try. That's another tough one that you're gonna have to be, you have to be unique. So you'd have to be like, in this whole entire block of people, the only person who's facing this is me. Okay, because I have a geyser that goes off twice a week and the only thing I can do is be a hot tub place. It's not that the building is old, like you can fix the building.
No, I can't fix the buildings. I don't have money things. So the building's gonna fall apart if I can't do that.
Yeah, well, that's also not a reason that you can use.
So the village wants it to rot?
You have to prove, so this is the problem. Normally, in a normal situation, that argument would hold a lot of weight and we would take into consideration. This is not that kind of thing. This is, you have to hit all these points.
Right.
I've been doing this for 10 years. We've had none of these.
Yeah.
We've had none of these.
And sorry, the
Nothing,
thing, just to be clear, the thing is a use
They
variance.
usually.
This is a use variance, yes.
Okay, can, only for the sake of clarity of this conversation,
Mhm.
I would like to add that this is new information to this team.
That's why
The
I'm giving you,
previous meeting was about an area variance.
yes,
That was changed under an interpretation by the code enforcement officer.
mhm.
Without this seriousness presented. And I think it's just worth putting that out there so everybody here can think about. We were offered an opportunity
Okay,
to
if you
appeal.
let me get through all these
Yeah.
points, I'm at point 2. We
Yeah.
got 2 more to go.
Understood.
Okay. So you have to hit these things. And it's not like, as far as you have to meet these criteria. The reason why I haven't had one of these in 10 years is because it's almost impossible to do this. This is like you have an existing commercial property that you're trying to turn into a residential in an area that asks the first floor to be commercial. That's the way the law is written. It's not like,
And it doesn't matter that our property is already existing non-conforming.
It's already a residential
It's
property.
already
it's-
residential property.
half of your property is residential. The building we're talking about has been a commercial space for a period of years. So that's, you're changing. Let me get through the 4 things. Okay, we're going off on tangents, okay?
Yeah.
So the first one is you have to prove you're losing money. You have to have bank records for years showing you're losing money. The second one is you have to prove it's in unique circumstances. Third one's easy, no alterations to the neighborhood character. I would say that area is mixed. Half of the stuff's residential, half is commercial. That's not too bad. And the hardship is not self-created. When you bought the property, if you bought it with the intentions of coming in and doing this, that would be something there. I don't know if that applies here or not, but those are the 4 considerations. The other thing is, we have to take into consideration that we have to give you the minimum variance that would work. Okay, so that would be, okay, we have to do the minimum. It can't be like what you want. We can attach conditions and the burden of proof rests on you. So the first thing we need from you is the money part of this. Okay, so if you bought it for $300,000, how much are you renting each place out for?
The bottom floor is 985
Okay,
and the top floor is 1250.
okay, you 985 in New Paltz?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You could get double that.
It's
not in good condition.
Okay.
It's a lot of
okay.
work.
it needs a lot of work.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an old building in the.
So it's
previous owner-
980 and what?
And 1250. Previous owner didn't do any renovations for the last 20 years that he owned it, and so we came in and we've been doing like improvements to the heating system and the plumbing system,
windows.
the windows.
Yeah.
Every-
The roof, we redid a bathroom, so we've been trying to bring it up to reasonable living
But the reason we
conditions.
paid 300,000 for it, because it's
Because
basically falling
it
apart.
was a dump when we bought it.
Okay, all right.
So if you could provide those financial records, that's an important part of our analysis. And also that, is part of the reason that we want to leave the public hearing open is so that people will have some time to, look at those. informations.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Did I miss anything?
I think that that's good. I will say that there is an option to appeal. So if you.
It doesn't sound like it's gonna be good.
Well, would that be the appeal to the,
would be
to the,
appeal-
to the
Appeal
area
goes to
variance?
this board.
Yeah, but
To,
you,
to the area variance, in other words,
it would be,
Appeal for the use variance.
yeah, it
for
would
the
be
change.
Right.
exactly appealing that determination.
Right.
So that is an option. I, just do want to.
Right, 'cause Mike, you had mentioned that to me on the phone, without sort of this severity of.
Right, well, all this, since this is the board, I mean, I'm not involved with what the board's research is and things, so all what Sean is saying is essentially the state criteria
Right.
for a use variance,
Sure.
and, yeah, so.
Yeah. So the main thing is that the reason this is so strict is because you're basically bypassing the zoning law. You're basically saying, you're not saying, I need a foot to make it a little taller so I can put solar panels on it. You're basically saying, I want to take this commercial space, this place that's supposed to be commercial and turn it residential. And you can imagine that the town has plans for these areas, like they've thought about this. And they want certain things in the area. If we offered, for example, if we said to Zero Place, hey, you can make downstairs into apartments, they would do it tomorrow. But that would completely ruin the idea of that zoning area.
I guess there's also. The Village of New Paltz wants to stay looking beautiful and historical, and we have historical property.
Mhm.
If we turn our beautiful carriage house into a commercial
Storefront.
storefront,
Yeah.
that is going to take away
Totally changes the
from
character.
the character of the neighborhood, and we could tear down, I guess, the whole
We could tear it,
property
yeah,
and make
and
it
we
care
could put a
beautiful
four-story building.
commercial
I mean,
four-story
So
building.
on the financial side,
Yeah.
you could come up with those numbers.
I just, it
to
seems
help
crazy
you
to me
gain-
that like,
It
it's,
seems not that there's this thing that's there that could be useful in a place that desperately needs it. I mean, when we put our last apartment up for rent, we had 75 qualified applicants.
Well, I would just say, I think these are the things you need to be taking down, writing notes of. This is the state law, like, so these are the criteria you need to meet in order for us to make this consideration. It's not us coming up
I
with this.
understand.
No, so what I'm saying is, like, I hear what you're saying, and I think everything that you're saying is what you are things you want to point out to us when you're making your case that this is a financial hardship, right? And-
Yeah, I mean, we had been making $850 a month in rent on that.
No,
place.
7.
Sorry, $750.
Yeah. and I'm not
And
making that.
We're not
and
making
the
that.
building
We haven't been
is-
making it for a year.
Yeah, the building's in
And
very bad shape.
you mentioned last time you've been unable to rent it to.
Yeah.
We
that's-
still want-
Now, this is when we put it up for rent on March 23rd of last year. And the one person who contacted us about it was a woman who was she asked, is this space livable at all? I need a studio space. I need a place where I can live because I'm moving back into town. She's literally the only person.
So where has this been, where
It's
have
on
you been?
Craigslist.
It's on Craigslist. Oh,
Same
you don't have a realtor?
format that
You
you got the.
probably-
But we never
75
need
renters.
a realtor to run.
No, never.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
You
can't,
use that for the other ones that you've got, 75
Yeah,
renters
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Correct.
I would just,
These
again,
are all
break
things
that
you-
down, those are the things you need to be pointing out, because that all supports this idea that there's a financial hardship.
And
I
the
just-
long term,
Yeah.
if you've been
And I guess-
posting this for a year,
The
and the
funny
other
thing
one went up. and she-
it will, if we aren't able to make this an apartment where we can have rental income, it will alter the character of the neighborhood because the carriage house will fall down, because we can't
It's
afford it.
gonna look dumpy.
And it
Whole
will
neighborhood.
continue to look dumpy, and we love the Village of New Paltz, we want to keep it looking beautiful and keep looking historic, but we won't be able to if we can't have rental income from this. That's,
There's no money for it.
Yeah,
Can't
that's
afford
the-
it.
I would suggest you have a realtor and maybe do something other than Craigslist. I don't think Craigslist is,
I mean,
if the
How-
building is not,
It's-
no one
it's
wants
not
it as a
rentable.
commercial space,
Not
it is not rentable, it has a practically a dirt
okay,
floor.
so you have to,
Yeah, it
Okay.
is not
So the problem you have is you have to prove it. Like all this isn't like you have to show us bank statements.
Yeah.
You have to show us
We
that,
do that, that's fine.
okay, you have to show us you have to show us that I spoke to 8 realtors. They all said this is unrentable even at $100 a month. You have to,
Yeah,
the problem is usually the burden of proof is on us. This is not, like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years, never had one of these. Because they just don't happen, because the standard is so hard to prove, because you're basically circumventing the entire zoning law. You're basically saying, I know there's this zoning law, I know I bought into this property that has this zoning law, but I don't want to play by those rules. And that's why the standard is so high. This isn't like if you said to me, I want to build right on the property line on both sides and go 100 feet higher, that's an easier one to get.
that's so sad, because I will alter the character
No.
difference sad.
I mean,
It's-
what I would say is, I didn't know it was a B2 when we bought it. We didn't look at the zoning when we bought it. We saw that it was a 3-unit property that made sense for us at the time. We found out later that it was a B2 and was not supposed to be residential, but we did also hear from the previous owner, when he got divorced, he was actually living in the carriage house. The carriage house had the kitchen in it, and it has a full bathroom in it, so it was used for residential use at some point.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that the most recent tenant was the restaurant who was using it for office and storage space.
Mhm.
And I don't think they were using it
And
for office,
it
they were
was really-
literally storing their cups and their
And
chairs.
what they
there.
told us when they were moving out was their intention was to house somebody in there, because they wanted to provide housing for their staff.
Mhm.
So it was,
Yeah.
it just wasn't livable, because
Mhm.
It's in
it's
such
in terrible condition.
Okay. All right, so.
And it also is a historic, like, it's not that it was converted to residential once upon a time. It was built fully, like many lots in New Paltz, as a carriage house and a home. It was built as probably a single family, but always residential. And so like the logic of taking something on a very small residential lot and making it a store is somewhat incongruous.
It's across the street from many stores.
That are
It's in
not.
a neighborhood that
just
has
to-
many stores. It's
Just to
not,
finish my statement, that's not sharing the lot with a home to 2 families. Right? They're across the street on different lots, but this is on the lot because it was built as a garage it's an accessory residential structure.
okay.
How it's built.
I think, yeah, you've explained the factors, for
Yeah.
the use variance, obviously you do have that option to appeal, and you'll wanna move on that because there is a time limit, but.
Well, we haven't been turned down to provide the proof, right? That's
What'd you
what-
say? No,
Yeah,
yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say to you, is
Yeah.
that I hear what you're saying, and that's not right now what we need you to bring us proof, right?
I wish that we could
Support.
have brought proof, I wish we
Yeah, I
had
wish I
told
had
that
known
prior
that.
to this meeting, we weren't informed of any of that.
Okay.
And I wish we had been, because it was
So again, there's the 4 things that you need to consider. I mean, the
Yeah.
financial is the first step, and then just make sure you know the other 3 things you want to bring forward to us. as well.
This is my cheat sheet. Would you like that?
I can also point to you the provision of village law that you'll need to look at for the use variance standards. It is village law 712B, so, that has the use variance.
That's New York State.
Yeah, and that's where they get these criteria.
Can you please say that one more time?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wrote it down for you. It's on the proof.
Thank you.
sorry, I can say it again, village law 712B. And those are dashes, it's like 7-7.
Can we learn a little bit about appealing to go back to area variances?
I think that would be something you can discuss with Mike.
Yeah, I just looked, the determination was made January 22nd, so you have 60 days from that date to appeal that new determination. If you choose, you want to do that, call me, and it's an application with a fee. It goes to this board, the zoning board of appeals, is who appeals go to, would be an appeal of that determination for a use variance. Or the change from an area variance. The other thing to consider, and I think we talked about this already, but if there was any way to reduce the size of it and it met criteria for an accessory dwelling unit, then you don't need to go through.
Accessory dwelling unit, I thought
It's
isn't
a
allowed,
percentage of the total
but
property.
it's not allowed in the B2 district, I thought.
Yeah, that's
I'll have to double check. But I think the math, when we did the percentage of square
No,
feet,
it's already,
it's considerably
it's too
larger.
big compared to the house. Yeah, because it's not a big house.
Wouldn't that be an area variance then? I mean, in other
No,
words, the logic
not
is,
well, not accessory dwelling units. I have to review the code, but I don't believe that there's ability to get a variance for that. I'll have to double check that. It's an interesting question.
I mean, it was presented that like it would be easier to get a 100-foot building. Why wouldn't the area limitation of that be
Yeah,
subject to a variance?
I'll have to look into that. I'll see.
Commercial versus residential.
Well, but then that's what I'm saying. So that would knock out ADU fully 100%. Your logic, which
If you were
follow-
sticking with commercial,
No, if we go back and say we want to do an ADU, I'm being told that would be easy, except that the size is
No,
too big.
There's a maximum size.
Yeah, it's too big.
But size is area, not use, but you're saying, and I think this is where the conversations led us here, rather than this kind of conversation, and it's a little bit hard to play catch up with this, because there was, we also don't agree that this is really inherently a use. We were told it needs to be, and we were told that we should do this, and we were also advised just do the hearing, and here we are. I'm asking, if we agree that the ADU logic holds water, does not require a use variance. If the size would be a thing to be looked at, but size is area. Right, we just talked about.
different area variances with.
That determination would ultimately be made by the building inspector, not this board. So that's why I can't answer.
Sure,
And then
Okay.
he would make that decision, and if it needed a variance, that would come back around, but that would be.
When we were on the phone, you and I talked about it, and you did math, and I think you said the percentage was so high in comparison.
well, it's a very small, right, their
Small house.
primary building is small,
Right.
so therefore, it doesn't make the ADU big, but again, that is an area.
Yeah, I just don't know off the top of my head the answer to your question. I
Right.
have to do some research on it. To see if an ADU can have an area variance. It's an interesting question. I
Yeah,
just don't know.
we
Yeah.
never had one of those either, right?
No, because ADUs are by right allowed, and they only go through the building department. They don't come to either the planning board or the zoning board.
And we've never even had like a property line on one that I recall.
No, because there's a lot of removals of a lot of the criteria.
Yeah.
That's why I'd have to dig deeper in the code before I could answer any
Yeah.
questions.
Right.
You're exempt from a lot of rules from that, but because of that, there's a lot of restrictions. So, yeah,
I never thought about an area variance on an ADU. That's why I have to do a little research
Yeah.
before I
Right.
say.
I think,
yes.
I don't know, that seems like an exciting thing to ask somebody who makes a lot of money an hour. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so basically, we need you to get us all the stuff that's on the list that we just talked about. Okay, if you get all that stuff together, we can look at it, okay, and then we're gonna have to.
I wish we'd known that.
Yeah,
This meeting,
it would have been,
back a
a
little.
lot of things would have been better. If we had done it earlier, but it's at the worst, this is gonna push this back less than 30 days, so it's not huge. Like in terms of the hardship that's happening because of this, this is a very,
Yeah.
I think we've gone past that. It's gonna push you back 30 days.
Okay.
But like I said, the amount of like I said, the burden of proof is on you. You have to show us all those things that were there. Okay, that's basically where we are right now.
And Mike, they're gonna simultaneously look at the ADU as well.
I'll take a look at the code and see if that's a possibility, because if that's a possibility, then it would be, we'd be starting over with a new application. Because you'd be applying for an ADU, and if it needed a variance or not, if that is even allowed, I just don't know.
Okay.
It does seem like that would be the simpler
Yeah,
route.
I'll do some research on
Yeah.
it.
But even if it was a area variance for it to be an ADU, then we'd still need an area variance for
the size.
the addition.
Right, it wouldn't even be just the addition, it was the building itself, because it's a percentage of Because an accessory dwelling has to be accessory to another dwelling.
Okay,
They have another residential dwelling, but it's quite small, and it's, the ADU can only be a percentage of,
right,
in order to be accessory. And that's where the challenge was, so.
Right, but
when we
even-
figured the math, it was, and I don't wanna make up numbers, but it was considerably higher than the maximum allowed percentage of the other building.
I'm just trying to make sure that if that is something that ends up happening, that we don't miss something else that would set us back.
Understood, that's why
The
I don't
addition
wanna
would
answer
also
without
need a
doing.
side yard.
Yeah, that's, no, because it's B2, so,
I'm just trying to make sure.
yeah, no, setbacks for ADU, plus it's a B2 zoning district, so it's already a 0 side yard setback.
Right,
Yeah, the second variance
Yeah.
that we thought we caught last time is actually.
Turned out to be a non-issue, and I
Oh, because-
apologize that I didn't think of it,
because of the B2.
Yeah.
Because it's in the B2, you can have a 0-foot setback, you can build right to the.
Right.
property line.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
What else are we missing?
You got enough to do on that sheet. That's gonna be.
I worry about coming back and being told something totally different.
And
Yeah,
it's like,
you-
it sounds, we spent a
okay.
lot of money on an architect, and if it's not gonna work out, if
I
we
don't wanna keep going if it's not.
It is a hardship,
Okay.
so that's
Spend
frustrating.
thousands of dollars.
If you want, we can move on quicker and vote faster, but
No,
I don't wouldn't
okay.
recommend doing that.
But
Because until you hit all these standards, we're slowing down so that you have enough time to
No, I
be
understand.
successful. So
Appreciate that.
you're 30 days behind. Okay, you'll have your answer probably by the end of next meeting.
Okay.
And then it'll just take another meeting for us to vote on it. So you're gonna have your answer right when you thought you were gonna get it. It's not gonna slow you down at all.
Okay.
All right, and
And we can leave the public hearing open, so that won't affect anything.
Anything at all, so we don't need to repost for public hearing then?
no,
Not as long as.
Now, once
nothing
it's been
changes.
open, they aren't closing it tonight, so it's held open until the next meeting.
Okay.
No need to repost, it's, the notice is this board meeting saying it's not closed.
Okay,
So there's no more cost to you on that aspect.
all right.
If something happens where we end up going a different direction, then that changes all. of it.
yeah. But if we're following this, then it stays open, we don't need to
Till
send
we
notices
close
out
it.
or anything like that. Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thanks.
Okay, so. All right, so the next one, okay, so this is Woodland Pond, come on down. Evening. Well.
Thanks for listening to our, considering our application. My name is Dave Roberts. I'm the Director of Capital Projects and Campus Development at Woodland Pond, and I'm also the climate rep of this project. Woodland Pond at New Paltz is a not-for-profit continuing care retirement community. It's the only one in mid Hudson Valley to offer residents access to a full spectrum of supportive care options at such a high standard. Our first residents moved in over 16 years ago. And the proposed development we're looking at tonight reflects our mission to bring our high standard of care to more residents and more seniors. I just have a couple comments to make before I hand off to our consultants. In doing so, I'll be addressing a couple of misconceptions that have been represented in comments from the public. Our due diligence on this land began in 2022, and we discovered the wetlands at that time and informed the landowner, Steve Bowman, you probably know. And thus began 3 years of site plan modification to get us to this more compact and attractive built solution. Our original site plan spread construction over the buildable land up to the 40-foot setback. We've got a proven track record of environmental conservation. 55 acres of Woodland Pond property is in a perpetual conservation easement, which is overseen by the Walker Valley Land Trust. And our recent land acquisitions included one parcel that is all wetland, so we could place that and add that into the conservation easement as well.
Wait, sorry, how much more property you're going to add to the easement?
Still to be decided, you know, depending on, but we've already spoken to the Walker Valley Land Trust, and they are amenable to adding more acreage to the existing.
So
conservation.
1 acre, 100 acres, 10 acres?
About 5 acres.
5 acres, okay.
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And that's wetlands, that's adjacent to the current.
Yeah, I'll
That's
walk
right.
through and show you
Yeah.
all that, I'll do some of the plans.
So
Yeah, they're screen sharing too, if you guys want to, just keep an eye up there too.
we're also proud to be part of the New Paltz community and that our residents are so engaged in the community. And so they're the two things that have brought us here tonight. In order to reduce the amount of disturbance on the land and to create as large a natural buffer between our proposed development and the neighbouring residential area, we're proposing placing the car parking under the apartment buildings, thereby making them taller. We also moved the apartments on George Dancy Way as far north as possible, away from the neighbouring residences, to create that buffer. So in this sense, we've certainly created a self-imposed hardship, but that's in order to be the best neighbour and the best steward of the land as possible. To be clear, the wetlands and wetland buffer are to the east of those George Danston buildings, and our first priority was to move the buildings north, away from the residential neighbourhood. You'll see this in Ken's presentation. As a matter of process, it's also important for me to state that Woodland Pond has been in active and continuing discussion with the Department of Health regarding this development for the past many months. We're overseen by the DOH and DFS. They approved our 2025 financing event, and they're aware of the scope and location of the project because part of that borrowing was the soft costs for this expansion. So they explicitly required us to describe the scope of this project in that financing event. So they're aware of it and we continue to that discussion. Lastly, I'll say that we believe that our plan conforms with the comprehensive plan. It clusters residences that preserves open space, protects natural resources, like wetlands, while allowing for a continuous network of open space through the urban lands as outlined in the comprehensive plan. So I'll hand off to Ken to give you a more detailed assessment.
Ken Casamento from LRC. As you can see here, this is the main parcel that is 86.2 acres of the parcel that we're looking at. This is the project area in yellow, which is a 17.58 acres. It consists of 2 lots, 3 tax parcels, the way it's set up. But it'll be combined into 1 lot of record, the project area. The main parcel will stay as a separate parcel, correct?
And that's currently 3 you said?
3 tax parcels, right? 2 lots of record, but there, for some reason, it's 2 tax parcels when you go through 3 tax parcels, excuse me. As you can see, this is the parcel here. Doesn't show on TV. The hatched areas are the wetlands that go north to south on the property area. The area that is surrounding it, there's a 100-foot adjacent area. We met with the DEC. We've talked to the DEC with regard to the wetlands on site. We have assigned jurisdictional determination of the wetland areas. We've engaged a wetland biologist and habitat specialist to look at the bat species and the animal life here. We've identified that there's no bog turtles, there's no monarch butterflies. There is a vernal pool area, that a woodland pond, as we call it, that's on the northern portion of the parcel. It's up. As soon as you go onto the TV, you can't see it. It's right at the top of our project area. That we're right in there. That we're working to, stay as far away from as well. We are working with the current community. There's, historically, there were crossings for salamanders that were there that we're looking to fix and enhance to allow that to function more properly.
Just for my
Yeah.
frame of reference, that is the pond area that's almost behind the current building. with the-
Yes.
There's like a platform thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The building itself, we're not touching anything within the buffer area.
Right.
The concrete slab, that you see here, we are removing. There is a portion of it in the wetland buffer. We have met with the DEC and talked to them about that. They're understanding that we're restoring it, so we have an impact to the buffer in that area to restore the buffer itself and remove the concrete. There is the existing Ermine Lane that goes east to west across the property. That road there, we are going to enhance. We've met with the DC and talked to them about that, making that accessible for cart traffic between what we're calling the commons side and the hybrid side of the project area. It will also allow for potential for an emergency access if needed to go through that area on that road as well. As you can see here, and it's again hard to show, but the developable area on the left side, as David pointed out, is that whole area right down to the property line on the south. And on the east side of the wetlands, it's the same, from north to south of the property. The wetlands bisect it to east to west, but not north to south. The proposed development was designed to be as compact as possible. We are located in the PB zone, which conforms with the uses in the PB zone, along with the potential for, could be a hotel, light industrial, office buildings, all typical uses that are identified in the code for this particular zone, along with the continued care community that we are proposing. To avoid the natural buffer on the bottom end of the property here, where Amy's pointing, we moved those buildings, as David pointed, as far north as we could. And by doing so, we had to put the parking underneath the buildings. We designed the stormwater to be underneath the parking so that we're minimizing that footprint as much as possible in these areas. We've worked with Woodland Pond and AG for several years, moving back and forth between different types of developments and buildings, and we had buildings throughout the developable area, and we felt through community discussions that the most appropriate way was to put the building to the north. But that required us to go taller with the buildings in order to do that.
Sorry, one more thing. Ermine Lane is considered for car traffic and emergency. So is the
Correct.
main entrance going to be on George Danskin or is it
Nope,
coming from?
so
Okay, yeah, sorry.
yeah, no, it's all good. So as part of our project, we are proposing to shut off the access that is George Danskin to only emergency access only.
Okay.
We know it's been talked about before. We know it was part of the original seeker documents that it was required to be opened as part of that. But the traffic consultant and everybody now looks at it and does have no reason for that to be open, other than for emergency access. We met with the fire department, I met with the town department, they're all okay with closing it off. So we're looking to make that an emergency access gated access there, so all the community would go out through the main drive out to North Ohio. Or, yes, yeah, and the hybrid buildings on the east side would enter right out to their own drive onto North Ohio. North Bucks, thank you, wrong road. The only access that would go east to west through that would be carts. So part of this community is the idea of shuttling back and forth residents between the main facility and this facility here. Woodland Ponds engaging their own people to move people back and forth. There would be a mix between the small compact golf carts and or the smaller transit vehicles that you would shuttle people on site only. In the case of an emergency, that could be opened for a fire truck or an ambulance to go through it. It is wide enough for it to traverse. So we are seeking some variances for the heights of the buildings because of that. We have a variance of 18 feet, 6 inches for wing A. And I'll explain the wings so you understand. 7 feet for the Commons building, which is the center. And then another 18 feet 6 for the wing B. 10 feet for the hybrid building to the north and 25 feet, 5 inches for the building to the south. We are seeking story because of the way the code is written. We are working to put the car park under both A and wing B as a full underground facility that meets your definition of cellar. So it wouldn't be considered a store. So if we break it apart to the common side, which is the west side of the property, we have wing A, which is the wing furthest west, the commons area, which is the middle, and wings B on the other side. They're 3 stories each on the 2 wings with underground parking. The commons area is 1 story with just the basement underneath, full cellar underneath. There are 63 underground parking spaces to service all of the buildings. We do have parking under both wings. The commons area does not have parking. It has mechanical space and amenity space in the cellar. There are land bank parking. There are 19 spaces proposed for land bank parking that is inside the developable area. So that if in case we needed additional outside guest parking or something in the future, there was determined that there was more parking needed. We don't believe there is with this community. We find that there's less parking than meets code requirements that they have on their current campus, but we are setting forth a place for that now so that it is inside the area that we have developed.
Is 63 do you know the number, because there's a formula, right, based on how many residents versus, is that right?
Correct. Yes, we're at the
Right,
required, yep, within the building for each resident. So when you look at the commons area and the satellite campus here, we have some distances to the property line as we talked about before. We've moved that building. The zoning code requires 40-foot minimum setback to a residential district, which is to our south. We're 158 feet from that property line, approximately 194 feet to the home in that direction, and 255 feet to the property line in the other direction, with about 375 feet to the nearest residence in that direction. We are looking to, in that existing natural buffer that we're remaining, enhance it. You'll see in our landscape plan, there's a detailed landscaping plan that's proposed to supplement the trees in there. They're very tall trees that the understory and undergrowth has kind of grown away from. So we're looking to supplement that by planting trees at a lower depth to create the understory and the full depth from beginning to the end of trees in that story. With that, I'll turn it over to Justin.
All right, so now we wanted to start talking about just the heights and the overall experience of the buildings as we kind of work through. So Justin, kind of AG Architecture Design, sorry, we didn't do the intros. And so here what we're showing is the wing A, and to kind of enhance what Ken's saying, we will have 3-story exposure on the right side, and then along George Stanskin, it is 4 stories, but we are intending to vary the parking as much as possible. And so what we're seeing across the entire site, we'll kind of talk about it in those site sections you have and what we have on the screen as well, is we have a 30-foot grade change, kind of, or 20 feet actually, from Danskin up to the top side of our wing B. And so we're dealing with grades, and so what we're proposing here is we're showing our height to the top is 48.6. And what we wanted to do is put some context to that number and show the existing campus. And so the existing campus shown here is actually 4 stories. And then it steps down. So from, you know, the high side to the low side, you're getting these tiered buildings of 4-story exposures each. And so it's a similar experience to that. However, the majority of our building will kind of be a 3-story exposure. So we're actually a little less than this. And then the other thing is we get into the architecture a little bit more as well as these are very kind of flat monolithic forms, not a lot of articulation other than the screen porches. And so you'll see as we kind of work through this, the intentional decision to enhance the architecture. So from what they have currently to the new design is much more articulate, breaks up the massing.
Do you have the heights of those buildings roughly?
The existing building is 54 feet. And they were granted a variance of 24 feet and 1.5.
So it was 30 in that.
Yep.
When Buck was built. That's what I was curious about.
How much, when you got that variance, how much property did you give to the town? How many acres did you give to the town?
There was no, the town wasn't given any acres. Their
The
conservation easement,
conservation easement, how much was there?
55 and 55
So you
acres.
gave, so the last time you gave 55 acres, now you're giving 5 acres and you're asking for the same kind of variance?
It's a much smaller parcel. So if you want to look at percentages of the parcel, they gave 56% of the, I believe it is, I'm trying to find the exact number if I have it written down, of the original parcel. It was 65% of the original parcel
Mhm.
that went to that, and I believe we're about 50% of the new parcel.
So
So
the new parcels,
17.8, so we're still working through it. It's like 7 acres somewhere in there. I don't remember the exact number, and I'd have to get
well,
that.
17 acres, so, okay.
If that's a question that you're looking for at this point, I'll
Well,
get you
you're
that
comparing one to the other, so if you're gonna compare, when you compare one building to another building, you just can't pick one thing, you have to talk about all the things that are about that project, and so when you did that first project, we got 54 acres, that's a huge amount of property that now, I go back there and walk there all the time, I know you guys probably walk back there, it's a wonderful place.
It's technically not open to the public, I don't believe.
Yeah, it is.
Are you talking about?
Okay.
You're talking about the Millbrook Bridge?
No.
Yeah, it was there, right? Yeah, so that was like, that was the, you know, you're basically asking for the same thing that you're given.
What year were these built? It was completed 16 years ago, I think, yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
So here we have the cross section. So we wanted to provide the context within the overall site, showing the relationship of George Danskin all the way up to North Putt. There is quite a bit of grade change, as I said. So down at 345 is about where George Danskin sits. North Putt is at 397. As you see the grade, one of the challenges we had is just we wanted to minimize the site impact, but also provide an environment that is, you know, can handle and accommodate the grade change without completely making a flat pad. You know, one option to this is retain a good chunk of it, make a flat pad. We're actually nestling these buildings into the hillside to create that stepping feature as you work your way from George Danskin to North Putt. In section A, we are expanding the entire length. Section B was to create kind of the relationship further down, showing the relationship to the wetlands, and then focus in on the wing B. So again, you're seeing wing B, and it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can see it better on there, but wing B, you see that the majority of the parking as we cut through is kind of buried under that grade. For the exterior architecture, again, what we're really trying to do here is create a language of these masses that kind of project out in the lighter colors, the darker colors recede, much more articulation than what we have at the current campus. We have these bay elements that create a datum line that kind of holds your eye to that second story. And then proportionally, you know, the roofs, we wanted to create this nicely articulated roof, not just a hip roof kind of as seen at the current campus, which does also add to our height. I mean, one of the ways you can do this is a flat. We don't think that architecturally that's correct. And so we wanted to create a very residential feeling building. This rhythm of gables and these projected bay elements with lower shed roofs. To create this nice elevation along George Danskin.
And
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
thank you. On this side of the building, you'll see just on the bottom of it, that is the only side of the building that is exposed for the basement on. The rest of it is
Yeah.
3 stories all the way around, buried.
Right.
So just, for the record, because we do have to consider that we're giving the minimum available, what would the height be of that building with a flat roof in comparison to what you're asking for? I know that
It
that
would-
would look hideous, and that's not what I'm asking. I'm trying to just want the numbers for the sake of having the numbers.
It's not, it's hard to say where the final parapet would sit.
Yeah.
It would probably.
What's the height of the
be,
windows?
8 feet heads.
No, what's the ground level to the top?
I don't
of the
understand.
windows? And then we'll just add 2
So you
feet.
have an elevation, yeah.
Oh, no, it's gonna be much more than 2 feet. So I mean, a flat roof, we have a 22-inch truss. Then we typically like to have 3 feet of parapet. If there's any mechanical screening, we'd have to screen the mechanicals. So I think it's much higher than that. I think actually with mechanical screening, we might be falling in at a similar height. I would say it's probably around, if it were at the 3-story grade, it's probably around 35 feet, 38 feet, somewhere in there.
As this building we're looking at is the one that's 40.
This is 46.
46, right?
Okay. That's the one that's 25 feet over?
No, that's.
No, so
we're
the
not
hybrid
there.
home is 25.
The what?
The hybrid home is. the
Okay,
25.
hybrid home.
And we can talk about why that is. So. The mirror version along George Danskin, you're seeing the wing A, we are completely at 3-story exposure, the entire lower level is underground. And then looking at the short end of the wing, you're seeing how we're holding up the courtyard and then we're dropping down for a retaining wall. In our overall plan, we have steps and this terraced wall that kind of allows us to make up the grade change. For building B, it's a very similar story because we are changing from 10 feet of grade between the high and the low. You are seeing a similar exposure of building. The grade will again kind of come down and slope along the sides. On the edge where we have our underground parking, we have to expose that obviously to have access to the underground parking.
And the majority of that side of the building is facing the other building. That would be this space in here that's facing that.
Right. Exactly. So here you're seeing the short end of the elevation where grade kind of cascades down around the side. And then along facing the wetlands on the south or on this lower elevation here, it is a full 3-story exposure. Our commons building, we are gonna have a variety of roof lines and roofscapes to create architectural interest. The height that is kind of causing that elevated height is the tower element. It creates that entry experience as you kind of come around and look up and get that little beacon of the significance of entry. And so you'll have a porte cochere with a higher kind of tower element.
But that's essentially between 2 higher buildings.
It is between 2 higher buildings. It's actually nestled in between the 2.
It's right in here.
Right, but yeah, between those 2, yeah. So from a sight line, it's below the other.
It is below the other ones, especially along George Danskin. Yep. And then on the top elevation, this is our courtyard side. So we have the raised patio, and then this is actually, you're kind of seeing our dining environment, a blend of, a flat roof that'll provide outdoor coverage, and then we have gable forms with some dormers that kind of pop up and create the rhythm. To provide this in a 3D aspect, how this kind of nestles into the site, you are seeing, the wing A kind of towards the bottom. George Danskin is at the bottom of the image. And then we terrace up to the midpoint courtyard, which is our commons entry, and then we have another terrace of buildings for wing B. What we wanted to show in this graphic is the additional landscape planting. So Henry's not here today, but we have a landscape architect who has very thorough plans that illustrate how we're going to infill and create clusters of plantings to kind of soften the corners, have the treescape along George Danskin be kind of this clustered approach rather than just rhythm street trees. And then the additional plantings you see on the right to buffer from the neighbors. And also too, we haven't touched on it a lot, but the area to the north. What is the concrete pad now very kind of undesirable. We want to actually activate and create outdoor amenities for residents. Here you see, as you come along George Danskin, you actually are now kind of entered into the site rather than where currently George Danskin just continues through the residential. We're actually creating a moment in which there'd be a control stop. You turn right to get down along George Danskin. The majority of traffic are actually gonna come up through the entry point of this bookshare. And then our raised patio creates kind of a nice outdoor amenity space for residents. We'll have dining, budding greens, bocce, things like that, and creates a nice environment for the residents.
So if we switch over to the other side, we have what we're calling the hybrid homes, which would be on the east side of the wetlands. We have the north hybrid home, which is up the top. That is 2 stories with underground parking. And the south hybrid home is 3 stories with underground parking. The one on the south is the one that has the height variance of is 55 feet. Each of them have the required parking, 24 parking spaces, 16 on to the north and 24 on the south, underneath the building itself. The center is set for limited parking for guests and handicap accessibility there. It's designed as a loop in and out with a boulevard entrance. So as you can see here, we've tried to situate the drive equal with the drive across the street from the ambulance so that it was in a adequate spot for visual traffic north and south for turning radiuses and distances. Ermine Lane, you can see at the top of screen, which is a shared drive that the residents, 2 residential lots to the north of our property share with Woodland Pond. We're separating that. We're basically giving them their own driveway on what is currently Ermine Lane. The cart path will be separated between it. And there'll be some plantings between the two to keep any people, residents for the houses, they'll have their own driveway now and won't have to share it with Woodland Pond, who owns the parcel.
What is this building to the right? The existing?
That is the ambulance.
The ambulance,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
So the
So your driveway matches up pretty much with their driveway?
just pretty close to it.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Typically, when we do the drives, you want them to be T across from each other, so that visually, when you come out, you're standing across. If you have them catty corner, you have 2 cars turning into each other. So in our traffic consultant worked with us on locating that with the best site distances and the most appropriate location, which they felt was.
And it's a 2-way.
Correct. Yep. In that location there. The hybrid building to the north is about 114 feet to the property line and about 178 feet to the home. The hybrid building to the south is 40 feet to the property line on the western corner and then 75 feet on the eastern corner.
And what, that's the hybrid one, is that,
That's the south, that's the taller one.
that's the tallest, so.
Correct. Hybrid home south is the 3-story.
Yeah, thanks. So here we are looking at the 2-story section. So this is the north hybrid home. We do have, our building is sitting slightly out of the ground, so we do have a bit of grade exposure, but we are still far under what exceeds the basement. You see the median grade plan at 97.3 to that top of roof. We are 40 feet in heights. On the south hybrid home, we have a grade plane that is similar, but because of the way that the grades are working towards wetlands, we have much more exposure. And so the overall height of this ends up being 55.5. Now that's taller, however, when you see it in the context of the overall site section, because we have a grade that's sloping quite a bit from north to south. These two actually start to, they're not exactly aligned, but they're getting more in line with each other, as you see on the lower section there, so. Because we are lower on the side, on the left side of the image, these two building masses are more or less in the same height of each other. Architecturally, again, similar experience to the Commons building. Varying roof lines, we have a blend of gables and bay projections to create that architectural interest at the corners. We are creating kind of a C-shaped plan, which does break down the overall mass with a centered entry experience. And so there's this entry experience, you park, you kind of walk up between the two legs and have your entry. The side elevations, which are facing George Danskin, are minimized by creating just the two legs. And so we're really encouraging that the majority of views are actually going to be to the north and south rather than along North Putt. And so along North Putt, we do have the short leg of the elevation. And what's not seen here so much is we do have a landscape buffer. And I think Ken, we had that green buffer on the right side. So we can kind of come back to that, I think, at the end.
I understand that there are different heights in that one, that the property slopes. Do you have, or can you get the height difference between the elevation lines of the two roof peaks?
So where they sit exactly.
Right, so in that picture, we're saying, oh, because it's downhill, it's 20 foot taller, but it only sticks up a little bit higher. How much is that little bit?
In your cross section, I don't think we have it set.
Yeah, I don't think
But we
we
can
said
get
that.
it for you.
Yeah,
we can-
I assumed you didn't have it, but I would like it.
Yep.
Sure. All right, so then we wanted to, again, give more context than just the elevation. So we are showing the relationship of the three buildings. And so we have the two hybrids in the foreground sitting along North Putt. There's a considerable amount of green edge that already exists along North Putt. We will produce, again, similar to what we're doing at the community building, a infill of lower foliage that can shed the views along North Putt. So we're creating really the short end of these buildings, really masking them as much as possible. For some reason that's a little off.
Is that solar on the roof?
That is, currently we want that to be a part of this project, so we're exploring a lot of solutions. Solar is one of them. We are also thinking about geothermal. And what we've done is we have created these bathtubs to maximize the amount of exposure for solar. So obviously you have, your panels are only so effective in certain directions. And so having that flat roof part, both on the hybrids and the community buildings would allow us to have solar there.
Just be aware that if you say you're gonna put solar on and that's why you want height variance, that we're gonna write that into the variance that you have to have solar.
That's,
Okay, so once you say you're into solar, make sure you're gonna do it, because we're gonna make that
we take that.
of the variance. We'll literally tell you what angle you have to be at. Okay, so don't say it unless you're gonna do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because that will, we love solar, we love geothermal, we love energy efficiency.
Right.
That will be a huge positive, but as soon as you mention it, that gets written in.
Understood.
Okay, so don't talk about it unless you're serious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have to answer to our residents, so it's like.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, do you have it on the place already that you already own? So you have no good faith there, so you should probably work on that.
Well, they've tried.
Yes,
And the
yeah.
roof structures there weren't designed to handle the weight
Yeah.
of it.
We've actually met with committees.
Right.
And then
What kind of roof, what is the roof made out of right now? Is it asphalt?
I'm the wrong person.
It's
it's shingles, but I think the
So
actual.
rip the
truss
shingles off, put
structure-
metal up and then put solar on
I
that. You
think
wait
it's
for the
fact-
same.
No, I think it's the wood
No,
structure.
no, the amount of money, what you could take off and take the
Oh,
asphalt down. put metal-
asphalt versus.
Yeah, take asphalt off, put metal up, and then you can put solar panels on it, no problem. That's really easy.
I know before I was at Woodland Pond, I think they did 2 studies and it just ended up being cost prohibitive to have solar on them. But that's why we want to have a
Move forward with
it.
it being considered, yeah. You don't want 15 years later to go, oh.
Yeah.
Well, we had discussions internally of showing them, not showing them, and we really want, we
Yeah.
want, yeah. And so here we now are looking at 2 views, this one being the 2-story north hybrid home. So at the entry experience, there will be adamant landscape that helps create and soften the edges. It really breaks down the mass by having these 2 arms rather than one long building. And so by creating that recessed entry, we're creating these 2 smaller mass forms that reduces the overall impact as you drive along North Butt. And again, with driving south along North Butt, having that similar experience where we're creating these nice landscape buffers. You can see in this one, they've actually proposed additional evergreen type trees to soften and create that green edge, really kind of bringing down the scale of the buildings. And then what you're seeing here is actually the enhanced drive for the urban property. So we're actually gonna have a separate drive for them. And then providing additional landscape buffer for the adjacent property by having these evergreen plantings clustered along the edge. With the articulated gable forms, that really gives it a residential feel and scale. So that kind of ends the presentation. We wanted to just leave it on the site plan as we figured there's probably gonna be many questions. One thing I talked about that we may have not shown early on is in that darker shading of green. We are holding that 50-foot landscape edge, and so that is that buffer I was talking about along North Butt.
So on this, so the dark green that has the wetland on that, is that where the water is? And then the lighter green is the edge of where you can actually build?
No, the lighter is actually the 100-foot buffer, so the darker is the designated flagged wetland area.
And so you can't build in the later place. Okay, so you're pretty much filling up every available legal space that makes sense.
Correct.
Less than 50% of this property isn't wetlands though, right?
Yeah, but you're not,
And the area on the bottom, on the left by George Danskin, that's the area that we pushed out of. It's about 3/4 of an acre.
North to keep it away from
And
residential.
the intent of discussions with, the conservation easement is to be able to create a vertical corridor for the creatures that are on. So the area on the north here, the top area, if you would show where the existing easement, conservation easement is named.
Oh, this one.
That's all existing conservation easement on the main parcel.
so that corner, right? So the corner where your mouse was just,
In urban lane, First Way Green.
Yeah.
yeah, right there.
That's in existing conservation easement.
So you're building on every square foot you possibly legally can right now.
With the
No,
exception of
with the exception of the residence area on the south.
So with the exception of the front where you,
They
Right
put
there.
all farther north.
Yeah.
so except for a 50-foot by whatever that is, you're building the
That's
maximum.
158 feet. 100 property area.
Okay, so and what's the legal? You can go up to
40.
40, so you're giving a, so you're,
100.
okay, so except for that strip in the front, you're basically building on every square inch that you possibly can.
I wasn't able to jot it down. I got distracted on the hybrids south building and hybrid north building. What were the dimensions from the property line and nearest house? It's one of the slides, but
Yeah,
I
I have it right here, so give me 1 second.
40 to the property and
So on this hybrid building to the south,
right.
that is 40 to the property line on the west side and 75 feet on the east side. The new barn that was constructed, that was there's a red barn on the neighboring property. I don't have, it's not in our survey to know exactly how far that is to that barn. Uh. You know, there's a barn that sits over here,
But,
that was just built.
and what is that, what is that barn? Do you
It's
know?
a residential, it looks like a barn, accessory barn to a
Accessory
residential.
barn.
To the north, it was 114 to the property line and about 178 to the residential home.
Thank you, I missed that.
So the intent of, the conservation is taking the area on the top of the pier, so that's on our current property where the woodland pond is. And creating a east-west corridor for critters in a permanent easement. And then same with to the south, but we are also talking about taking the section that is at the bottom of the property where that 40-foot area where we have 150 feet and potentially trying to go across there with a portion of the conservation easement as well to link it around the development so that it would be forever kept undeveloped.
Okay. So
Also, this is where.
you're asking for a lot. 25 feet is a tremendous amount and 18 feet.
85% of it.
Yeah, you're asking for a lot and you're not really, you're basically building. You're maxing, except for one place, you're maxing out your use of space, like there's, everywhere you can build, you're building. Except for 100 foot by, I don't know what that dimension is, the front of the building, there's.
You said it's about 3/4.
Right.
Okay, so you're not building on 3/4 of an acre. You're building everywhere else you legally can, and you're asking for more. And why would we say yes to this? This seems like you're building as big as you possibly can, and you're building even more. Like, if you were set back a bunch and you wanted a height variance, I would be like, yeah, sure, go for it. But you're basically maxing this thing out. You're building as big as, you could barely make this any bigger in terms of footprint. Like, everything is, you can't build in the wetlands, so that's basically like your property line, and I'm looking at everything that's not a wetland, it's got a building or a road on it, except for that one strip. And so you're building everything you can, and you're asking for more, you're not like back a bunch and saying, oh, look, we're giving up all this property here. You're building as big as you possibly can, and you wanna go taller.
Well, we could build another 120 feet south.
Okay, then do that. Then don't go over variance. I'm trying to figure out what you're giving back to the community to ask for this variance.
So I think that our answer to that is that we don't want to build up to the boundary, up to 40 feet from the boundary of the neighborhood to the south. And so that's what drives this.
So you're asking,
Is that we're trying to create that buffer.
you're only making one buffer, and it's not really,
If you lost that parking before, then you had to.
We'd have to pull the building.
literally the building to the right, the twin buildings, you're giving nothing back. You're basically maxing out, you're building every square foot you can, and you're asking for a height variance on top of it. And then on the one on the left, you're saying, well, we're gonna give you 1/4 of an acre, 3/4 of an acre out of 17, and we want an 80% overage on the height. Like, that's huge asks for you're not really giving anything. I'm really confused on what your strategy is here, because I'm seeing you guys asking for an awful lot, and I'm not seeing anything given back to New Paltz or the community, or like for neighbors' consideration or anything here. I see 100 feet, 3/4 of an acre. In terms of percentages, what's 3/4 of an acre of 17? What is that? 7%? So you're giving back 7%, and you want an 80% height variance. I'm just trying to figure out your strategy here. I think the building looks great. It looks awesome. Your architectural stuff, really nice. It looks pretty. But I'm really hung up on the fact that you're maxing out your building structure to almost as big as you can on one. and you're giving 3/4 of an acre back on the other one, and you're filling every available space, and you also want a height variance.
The hybrid buildings are harder sell for me.
Yeah, I'm seeing a no on the hybrid, because you're maxed out there. You're using every. I mean, you're probably not using every square inch, but it's close.
Only on the bottom corner.
Right, but without turning the corner of the building.
Yeah, yep. Like, explain to me like I'm two. I'm seeing, you guys are asking for the biggest ask we've ever had. And you're giving back not a lot. I'm assuming that wetland in the middle, you're gonna put into easement, but you're not gonna give that to the public. Are people gonna be able to go to that and hang out there? Is that gonna be public land, or is that gonna be not public land?
With the Walker Valley Land Trust, we'd have to discuss paths and that sort of thing, what they would allow, it would be just.
Because they're the steward of
Yeah,
it.
it's good. So if there's gonna be access, we'd have to talk about,
Sorry to backtrack a little bit here. What is running?
Yeah, that's.
What was the concrete foundation that we keep referencing?
Oh, so that was part of the apple orchard,
Okay.
storage and so on, so there was a building on that.
All right, so it's a slab from the building.
Essentially, I mean,
There was a fire at that space.
Oh, I got you, yeah, okay.
so what we're saying is that
All of it.
I guess what I alluded to in my presentation is that if we were not to go to 3 stories, we could, build this all the way down here, right? And then we add, what was that, like 25% to the,
Yeah.
Right.
30% to that footprint there, so that comes down there as well. And so we actually thought this was a better solution to have a higher building and create that buffer in that point. That's what we honestly thought. It's better to have a building, given that the existing development, what we look at there and the height of that. This is a far more sophisticated approach in terms of massing and use of materials and so on with the actual architecture of the building. And so we felt that was a really great development in terms of design, and that it was a much better not to cover all this property with more building.
Look, obviously,
That-
the board, like, speaking just from my personal point of view, I can see your leverage on that one. I'm having a harder time with the hybrid. That south building's an 85% increase over, like, that's, might as well be 2 buildings.
And I think we went through a lot of options for this
That's a big deal.
case. And what happened here is we felt it was really important not to have an entry, near this house, but to have one entry to both buildings. And that really is what drove this part of the plan. And so what we look at here is that, and it's not really pictured so well, but, this will be really planted out with a lot of trees, and this will be a lot of trees as well, because our apartments are looking into this. So we see this as, as green as possible as we can in the middle there.
What was the thought process behind?
Buildings.
So those 2 buildings serve roughly the same functions, right? As each other.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So the one to the south that's closer to the house is a floor higher than the other one?
Well, it's not closer to a house. The reason we looked at that one is there's a garage on the other side. That's a tall, like barn story building. That's most immediately adjacent to it. So the residents.
It's not 75 foot to the nearest home?
No, that's 75 foot to the property line.
Yeah.
40 foot to the property.
There's,
You're talking about the south one.
it's 45 foot to here and 75 foot to here. I don't have where the barn was built right here,
And
so I don't know how
Okay.
close it was.
And I
On
think
the,
we need
on
to,
the eastern property, okay.
Correct,
yeah, and I think we need to provide the distance to the house.
correct. That
Yeah, I
house
thought
down
that put
here.
the 75 foot.
No, the house is quite.
It's quite far. It's on the other side of the barn.
Let me,
We can get those.
yeah, I would. like
It's not in the aerials, otherwise I would have given you an idea for the aerials. This was built post the aerials. Did you find it in there?
No, I'm just looking.
Yeah, on Google, man, yeah.
On Google
Yeah.
Earth, like there's the rescue squadron there.
Do you have anything?
Is it, yeah, this is probably, there's a garden behind that barn, Robert, but it's so hard to see the property.
Do you have, my question to you is, do you have any concerns about the fire?
I would do that to the chief, I'm not.
Yeah, we haven't referred this to the chief because he said wait until it gets a little more settled in terms of. He didn't want to review something that was then gonna change.
Yeah, that's another
And so it'd be
thing.
right around here.
They're all sprinkled buildings.
Yeah,
They're all sprinkled, they're all.
oh, so your second point of entry is
How it's supposed
the
to.
Armin Lane.
That is correctly built.
The water comes from the village through George Danskin.
Yeah.
It'll be run up. There's adequate water in the original approvals to bring water up the Ermin Lane and service the two hybrid homes for both water and sewer. So they'll both be sprinkler, fully sprinkler buildings.
Okay. So.
So there's a fire rescue.
Hey, Ken,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to clarify, I double checked, so
There's a barn.
there's a discrepancy between the schedule and the text. Of the number of stories, it's actually in the text, it's 2.5, so the building
Yeah,
inspector.
Google Maps,
Has
the
been
barn.
following the text rather than the
Okay.
code, rather than the chart. Because the chart was made from the code, but somewhere along the way, something didn't get updated or was a
Okay.
mistake. So it's 2.5, it's so the code for PB district is 30 feet or 2.5 stories. So, just for.
Thank you.
For reference, so I'm not sure you will be able to avoid a story,
Yeah, understood. You still need a half story.
correct,
For that.
even if you change the
Correct.
parking garage.
Yep.
Totally.
And the hybrid home to the south, the height that you're talking about, we put grades naturally around it, so there's more exposed foundation, so when you calculate the height, it's the average grade. Right. So because this drops off as you go further south, the grade at the top of the hybrid home at the entrance on that north one is, I'm just grabbing my notes, right, so I can speak to the exact elevation. Yeah, listen, sorry.
The elevation cut, so if I'm standing in that roundabout.
Yep.
And I look at that face of the north building, I turn around and I look at the face of the south building, are those? Am I seeing the same height elevation at that point? Like, or is the south building a story taller from that point of view? You understand what I'm?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a full story, but it's not.
I'm just struggling with why that building should get to be
So,
one more floor.
so the calculation of it is, and this is where I was going for it has 3 stories of residential, but the reason the height is so high is because the grades fall off all the way around to keep coming down.
And this building also has 3 stories of residential?
This is 2 stories of residential.
Okay.
But it does have one more.
Right.
This one does.
So
So the height is even more because when you do the average grade calculation, the basement in this case.
Yeah.
Is partially exposed beyond half of the.
I understand all
Elevation.
that. I guess my
Right.
question is
Why 3 here?
That's your biggest ask, like, that's the one that I look at and I go, what are you asking me for?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah,
and
I
it
mean, you're
seems like
maxing
you
out,
could just not.
you're maxing out your property, you're
It seems
filling
like
in
you
the
could just
footprint and then
chop
you're
that top floor.
asking for more.
And it would be the exact same as the other building.
Well, so let me, I understand
understand
this question. If it's the height that is the concern, I can put grades around and keep the grade high and do a retaining wall. And have it be blended in with a retaining wall. So then the grade is only 3 stories and the height's gonna come up and you're not gonna be asking for the same variance.
So you should do that. You should always try to not.
And we could, but again, we were talking, the way David was explaining, we're trying to blend it down into the natural landscape easier and not have a harsh wall to look at from the side.
From
You
the
know what I
side
mean? So
would be
the reason we're
barn.
here is to have this discussion, so
Right,
we know
right.
which way to grow in our design components, because if we went with a harsh wall and you say, oh, we really would like it to feel more natural,
Right,
then
even in doing that. It's, the other, like I said, I don't know where these guys are on it, and of course, that's something to be discussed. The other building, I understand like why you made the choices and, even what you were trying to use as leverage, you know, and like how all that came about, that all makes sense to me. That's harder for me because it, regardless of where the ground ends up, like the elevation could just be a floor less. And it's still, but like that building's 2 floors with parking underneath, like, why couldn't they just both be?
So
I understand there's
to drop-
financial components and all of that stuff, but like,
I think you're asking for a lot. And you're maxing out the space, like all the buildable space, you're pretty much using. Except for a 3/4 of an acre. I did the math, it's 5%. So you're saying we're not gonna build on this 5%, but we want 25 feet and 18 feet and 18 feet. That's a lot. You're asking for a lot and you're pretty much maxed out. To me, this is a really not a hard decision for me. I'm looking at this is way too much. Now, the other properties that you're mimicking, that you're saying were just like, when they did this, they gave a lot to the community. Okay, they gave a lot. You're giving 3/4 of an acre, 5%. And you're saying that we're gonna put all this land in easement. And I'm looking at it, it's between your buildings. No one's gonna be able to access it. If they do access it, how are they gonna access it? You don't have no plan for that. And so I'm not seeing any give back to the community. I'm just saying, we're building as big as we can. We used every footprint except for 5%. And we wanna go up another story on all the buildings. This is a lot. You're asking for a tremendous amount and you're not giving anything. You're giving 5%?
I mean, we could, on the hybrid side, we could certainly take up more building land, I mean, and then it lowers the overall roof. The problem is, we saw it as more an open experience, and so the experience, as you kind of go into this property, is the more green frontage you have kind of at the front, and so that's kind of what we did. The other reason too is actually, we didn't talk about it too much, but seniors actually prefer that shorter walking distance, and so height, vertically can be solved through elevators and things. Overall lengths of building.
If you made one of those buildings 6 stories tall, I would be more into that than what you're building.
Can I just ask, why is, I may have missed it, why is the south 4 stories?
South is it's 3 stories with underground parking. And
sorry.
Why is your north is 2, like, why is it 1 more story? I didn't understand. Why is one?
Grade of the land there drops.
Yeah, but
It's
fundamental question,
When
that
you
was
look
the
at it from
question
a
I
visual,
was-
you're gonna see
Yeah.
it higher, and that's why I'm asking, why is it?
That was the question I was.
So fundamental question, one is got 16 units and one is 24, is what I
Right,
read.
a bit more units.
Right.
Is the answer.
Yeah.
So can this project go with less units, I guess that's.
We'll have to go back and talk through it internally. And the idea of why we put that one taller is again, there's a commercial space across, it's further away from all the residents, there's a commercial barn on the backside of it. So we felt that if there's any place to put the taller, the extra story, that would be the most logical place because it has the least impact of what's around it. You have commercial space on one side, you have a tall barn on the other side, you're not up against where to the north, you have more residential neighborhoods. So we dropped down to a 2-story to feel more like the residential neighborhood to the north.
I'm not sure how familiar you are with the view of the existing woodland ponds from like the ridge per se, but it is very visible.
Well, yeah, no, you're exactly
And
right.
so
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, the green, like when you're driving on North Pocket tricking me, but when I'm on the cliff, you're not.
Well, actually, I'd argue that this will have less impact. And the reason for that is because when you're on the ridge, and I'm really familiar with that view, and I've been struck by it so many times.
It's massive.
It's, a lot of it's car parking too.
Right.
It's the, you know, the large buildings, but it's also the car parking. I mean, the existing building is way larger than what we're building here.
Mhm.
You know, we have an entire health center, community building, so on. But I think here, we've used colors to the buildings that blend more. And then also, when you look at the tree line across the street from Danskin, these units, and we looked at this because we were kind of really interested in, oh, what views are we gonna see? Well, they don't actually get long views because they're, you know, below.
Right.
So unlike the main campus was a hill like this that they brought all the way up and put the buildings way up here.
Yeah.
And then only tiered off the backside and then put the cottages around the outside. And it's a big, giant, open mass. This, we really worked to try to stick in the middle and tier so that it is covered with trees on both sides.
Is the
For that purpose.
hybrid building section the highest elevation of this property? Cause that all kind of runs down a little bit, right?
Yes, that goes back down on that side, so it's a very odd property in that the wetlands are not in the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're up high,
Right.
and that it comes up and then goes back down the south part. You know what I
The
mean?
two-story is sitting in the highest within our
Correct.
site, and then the 3 drops 10 feet down.
Right, so to your
And-
point, the question that you asked, which we'll have to get you that answer, is the roof line of hybrid home north, which is the 2-story, and the roof line of hybrid home south are close to the same
Yeah.
physical elevation. The ground's further
Right.
away, but when you're
Yeah.
looking at even in the air, it's close to the same. But we'll get you the exact elevation, so you.
I think, you know, what would be really useful to me and, you know, maybe the consultants, is to talk about, you know, the two separate parts of this project and to understand from you, you know, what's acceptable and what's not. I mean, what we're hearing is that south hybrid building is a really hard hill to swallow.
Okay,
Well,
so,
that was just me.
Well,
yeah, you are asking for a lot. Do we agree on that? 25 feet
For one of us,
is on one of the things is a lot, right?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
it's just, I'm
yes.
trying to,
Yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah,
be with you.
Yes, yeah,
25 feet is a lot.
yeah.
The other ones are 18?
Correct.
18
On the
feet.
hybrid building, 10.
18 feet
yeah.
is a lot. You're asking for a lot. Right? Like, just not a lot,
Yeah.
like, what you're asking for a lot. What is, why, how can I explain this to someone who lives in the village and be like, they're asking for a tremendous amount, but
So there's two sides to just talk in generalization is, the typical height of the facilities in that area. We did get a variance, which we, you know, when you explained, you know, you gave a lot for that variance.
yeah, you gave
understood.
54 acres.
Yeah,
You're
I
giving
mean-
nothing now.
But,
So you can't use that one anymore.
well, I won't go there.
Don't, because I'll just keep bringing it up. You're not giving us land.
The,
Like that property that was built gave a lot. Like that was a huge amount of property that they gave up. It's really nice back there.
the proposed zoning that code changes that are out there that haven't been adopted, and I understand that. The text change to this is to 45 feet for height for this zone. So when you put in comparison to that, we're not that far off of what the proposed text changes are. So they're not out, they haven't been approved. and I-
Yeah, we're not doing, so, yeah, you can't even go there. Like, okay, I'm asking what you're giving the community for this big ask, and I'm getting, what, I'm not hearing anything that is helping out the community right now. I'm hearing you guys are gonna come in, you're gonna build every square foot that you can, except for 5%, which you generously gave us, that you're gonna pull back the building and put a 5% of your acreage buffer between your neighbor. Okay, 5%, and then that's it. That's the only thing I've heard, that you're actually considering the neighborhood or the village. Like, I'm not hearing, oh, we're gonna do all these cool things. We're gonna have low-income housing in the area. We're gonna do all these great things for the community. I'm just hearing we want this.
one of these.
Yeah, solar would be one, but you have an existing building that you haven't put a piece of solar on, so. You're not coming here with like a lot of,
So, yeah, I mean,
Do you understand my concern?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Like, I have to talk to the people in this town that live here. I don't wanna be like, oh yeah, we just gave them we gave them a 25 feet because they had a pretty building. Like,
No.
that's not reasonable in my head.
I understand that, and I think that how we got to where we are is by saying, well, we have a plan that can comply, where we don't need a variance, but that covers more land.
Mhm.
And it seemed to us, and maybe this was a.
But it's only 5% more land, because you only are not building on.
No, because parking.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
But
that.
then, you know, maybe that was yeah, maybe that's a faulty premise, but our starting point was to kind of say, well, actually, it's better to, you know, consolidate this, build a little taller, and then have more open space.
And I agree with, if you were doing that, I would totally get it, but when I look at this here, I don't see a lot of space you're not building on. You're basically right on, your buildings and structures are right on the 100-foot wetland border.
One question, you said in this other iteration that you first
But
looked
that would
at,
be parking.
would that provide you with the same number of apartments and space? Okay.
Units.
Yeah.
If you didn't get the variance in the hybrid building,
Your other
yes,
plan,
you
you
would be
build,
building more
maximizing
buildings.
the land
Right.
and still get the same number of units.
It would be bigger buildings, more buildings,
Yeah,
and less open green space between them.
a way to, for me to, for me to think this is like Sean's asking. What you guys just mentioned is definitely one thing on that list. It would be helpful if there was a way for there to be more things. That, at least from what I'm hearing, is that as the sole reason. Probably isn't gonna carry enough weight, at least for one voting member.
Understood.
Yeah,
And our goal here, obviously, we're not doing anything tonight, but is just this, is having a great discussion, which we appreciate, so that we know what we have to do to help support, just like we had the discussion with the couple before us, you know what I mean? We're fact finding, understanding what the concerns are, and we can come back and provide our responses and ability to go towards that.
Is this project feasible, Ken, with less units for you guys?
tough question. We're running those numbers, honestly.
Just
Yeah.
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 Sean, you mind if I? say something?
Let's let everyone exhaust themselves and then we'll.
I just wanted to bring something that came out of the village board
Okay.
the other night about this. so.
Yeah, all right, so. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Any concerns? Anything else? You guys have anything else to add? Okay, all right, I think we know where we're headed. All right, so I think we have to move towards a motion to have a public hearing for this.
It might be.
You wanna wait until we have a more definite design,
Okay,
I think. If they're gonna change, we should wait.
Also just with the, you know, everything going, there's a lot to do still for seekers, so.
okay,
But I think, you know, we're both, you know, the public is welcome to make comments during the public comment.
Yeah,
okay,
and for the board, there's considerable number of comments that were received
yeah,
that are in the vehicle.
I'm sure it's gonna be fun. Okay. So I guess once you're done. You want, okay, so now, what do you want to talk about?
The other night, the village board was briefly chatting, talking about this project, and one of the board members brought up the idea of potentially a percentage of these units being set aside for affordable senior housing. You are exempt from the current code from being required to provide that, but he just asked if and this is why it was brought up, he asked if the board, meaning the village board, would consider looking at that code section. And I only bring it to your attention because, as Sean was saying, looking for givebacks, and he said affordable housing. So if you were doing senior affordable housing for a percentage, just a suggestion. I'm not saying that would change anything, but
Just going.
It would be
It would,
another.
it would show you're giving something back when you're building at maximum minus 5%. Okay, so you're basically starting right now that you're not building on 5% of the land that you could as a neighborly gesture, and I'm suggesting that maybe 5% of the property is, that you might want to reconsider some of that or think of something that is going to help the community out. This is a huge ask. You're asking for 25 feet. That's a lot. That's not, I honestly, I don't know why I'm not, it's architectural design, it's fine, but this is a lot, and you're basically building pretty much everything you can except for 5% in the front. And the picture's misleading because that corner up on the top, where the parking lot is, that's another property. So you're basically on the property line for all your tennis court fields and your other stuff there. So you're really maxing out your space there. I mean, there's only, out of all your property that you can build on, you're building on everything but 5%. And then you're saying we need to go taller. That's a rough ask. It's not a normal ask.
I mean, we can put this number of new units on the land by covering more of the land. And we
Yeah.
felt like, oh, the better
You would be
solution.
5% more, yeah, you could build 5% more, it's not
Well, by
significant.
altering
Like,
parking,
Yeah.
but the 5% is also misleading because we have a significant amount of green space between buildings, between parking, between those areas that we're maintaining. So if you look at Woodland Pond proper, and as Dave pointed out and you pointed out, from far away, it's the traditional commercial type parking. Building, 5 foot, parking, 5 foot, building, 5 foot. And we were trying to avoid that. So by spreading it out a little bit, yes, and it is taking more space, but it does also have more landscape in between to make the space break up rather than a large parking lot like ShopRite Plaza or things like that. So that's what we were trying to avoid.
Was the 5% calculated off of 17 acres is the entire property?
The second property, yes,
So
3/4 of an acre is 5%.
of 17,
Yeah.
so of the building, because the wetlands.
Yeah.
It's probably slightly more than that,
Yeah,
but just
it might be,
playing
yeah.
devil's advocate.
That's true, it might be, but it's
Yeah,
not,
I would imagine just by looking at it, it's probably somewhere like 8 to 10,
okay.
but I don't know how much that helps you.
Yeah, it's, but see, my main thing is that when you have wetland, you're basically exempt from a lot of the building stuff, because if you have wetland on your property, then you can pour concrete and seal up the whole entire place, where you can never do that, because your percentages are based on the total lot.
Right.
So you complain about the wetland, but you get a huge advantage by having a wetland there, because
If it's.
you're getting exempt, and like I said, if the footprint of their structure was not covering everything but 5%, I would be like 100% in.
Well,
I think that's great,
realistically, they would rather put all that right in the middle and not have a wetland.
No, I know that, but they can't do that, so it's not,
I
it's
think
neither here
it's
nor
hard to kind of look at that as a gimme, you know, that because of the wetland. I mean, if the wetland wasn't there, we'd be able to build something
You'd be asking.
much larger.
Yeah.
well,
We wouldn't
but if
have
the
to go-
property, but if that didn't exist.
He's
if that
talking about
property-
coverage of.
if your property line ran right on the edge of that wetland, okay, you wouldn't be able to build any, you'd be building 10% of what you got there.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, so
that's
it's-
probably
yeah.
17
So
acres.
you're talking about just the building coverage component.
Yes, you have to have a certain
I
coverage.
check it and just, I can run that to see.
Minus wetlands and see
Yeah.
what is that.
But I,
Certainly another number that wouldn't hurt to
Yeah.
have.
yeah,
But it's-
Numbers.
Yeah, like I said, this is not an insignificant ask. It's not like, and I get some of it, like I get 10 feet for the parking lot. So if you said, hey, we need 10 feet for each building for the parking lot, I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. But you're not asking for 10 feet, you're asking for 25 feet, you're asking for 18 feet, so you're asking for the parking lot and another story,
So
you know?
to the point you said at one point earlier, and I think you asked the question, is part of it is the type of roof structure that makes it taller. So if we went with a flat roof structure at getting the minimum, that would bring down the numbers that we're talking about.
So, which is that number I was asking earlier.
Correct, and I don't have
It's
the
something to put into this
Correct.
list of,
Yeah.
that, like, aesthetic of the building for the neighborhood.
Right,
Same.
versus,
Right.
versus the other, what's worse?
Yeah.
Going, you know, I'm just picking numbers, instead of 18 feet, going 13 feet, but having a flat roof.
Right.
You know what I mean, or 18 feet and having a roof that looks consistent with the neighborhood.
Yeah, but the roof isn't 18 feet.
But the.
No, I'm just saying this ask.
Yeah, but when you, so, listen, I agree with the parking lot, I agree with the parking lot underneath it, I think that's a brilliant way to build, I think it's the right thing to do. That's environmentally conscious, you're hitting all the things on the parking lot, totally get it, but a parking lot's 10 feet. You're asking for 18, so you're asking for a parking lot and you're asking for another story, so it's not.
We have 12 feet in the parking.
It's 12, okay, 12.
Well, with the commercial.
Yeah, I guess you gotta get stuff in there. Okay, all right, okay, so maybe 12 feet, 12 to 18 isn't that much of a.
And if you guys went with your other plan that we were talking about, what sort of, what variances would you have needed for that project?
But I think we figured out we have a compliant project.
Without any height variances. We may need a story variance because of the way the story is 2.5 feet. But
2.5 stories.
2.5 stories, excuse me. But we would have a compliant plan for the height in the variance, that's fine.
On the commons buildings. A lot of what you did makes sense to me. Like I said, it's harder for you to, for me personally, the part that's hardest to swallow is that the biggest number that's currently the standout, that's like 85% is the hybrid. Feels a little weird. Well, if that was 3 floors, then the biggest variance would be on the commons buildings, which you gave space for, like, you know what I mean? Like, then what we're talking about is you get back into this factor, so, okay, so we need this because we wanted, to do the parking, right? Okay, we all understand that. We pushed it away, so, you know, the footprint's a little smaller, so we gotta be a little taller. We wanna make it aesthetically pleasing instead of a flat roof, so we want 12 foot instead of 6 foot, so that adds 6 on top of it. You take all those numbers and you haven't given us those yet, but when you do, I could sort those out and I think I can make sense of this. I can't make sense of the 4th floor on the south hybrid building. Right.
Understood.
Yeah, just to try to give you, to come forward.
Appreciate it.
All of that data's there. That's the thing that I'm gonna be like, I still don't know why that can't just be, I know it's money. I know that's the real answer, but like, for the community, I don't know how that helps anyone except the bottom line on the backside, and that's not why we're here. Right?
Understood.
Yeah. Well, been pretty blunt,
Yeah.
so I don't know what else I could say.
No? Oh, well, okay.
Alright.
All right, so.
Thank you very much.
No
We do
problem.
appreciate it, yeah, that's an open conversation.
Yeah.
So I motion to close the meeting.
Motion.
Second vote, aye, meeting closed. Okay, all right.
Thanks very much.
Mike, did you need me to sign something?
Yeah.
No, I think. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree, I think that that's better for me.
By the way, Why? What? You're supposed to argue with us.
No, you're right.
Wrong.